Amen. I say to you, this poor widow has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. In today's gospel, according to Mark, Jesus observes and praises this widow, this woman who gave all she had to support the mission of the temple. And so how providential is it that today we will consider the state of our own temple, our own parish, if you will, to become more aware of how the gifts that we give to the mission of the church are bearing much fruit. And before we get into that, something I noticed that was funny about the gospel is that in this case, as people contributed to the temple, they did so in these trumpet-like metal containers. So when you put your money into it, your coins in the Old Testament, everybody heard how much you were giving. But now we have collection baskets lined with felt, so you don't have to worry about anybody hearing how much people put in. Plus there's online giving. But we should still notice that Jesus was observing that in the temple, and so he's observing us in our efforts today. The law of the church requires me to give this report every year as the pastor of Divine Mercy, and so we prepared a special handout which we're going to look at in a minute. And that is just for Divine Mercy. I also gave this report at Sacred Heart this weekend. On Tuesday, we will send out both reports via e-blast to all of our parishioners at both places so that you can see the state of each parish. But before we get into that report, let's take a moment to go back to basics and to think about, well, what is a parish and why do we even have them? A parish is a community of the Christian faithful. It is established within a particular church, a diocese. It is under the authority of the diocesan bishop, and it's entrusted to a priest as its proper pastor. We have parishes for the purpose of carrying out the mission of the church, and we know that mission is always worship of God, living and sharing the good news, and caring for those in need. So we have Divine Mercy and the mission of St. Bernadette as a community of the faithful from the North Shore, from Central Square, from Brewerton, from our whole area, situated within this Diocese of Syracuse under the authority of Bishop Lucia, entrusted to me as the pastor to carry out the mission of the church in our area and even beyond that. Now, while this mission is entrusted to the parish under the leadership of the bishop and the pastor, it's something that all of the faithful take part in by their baptism. So you will notice in the bulletin today, we've listed some of our key players in the mission of the parish here at Divine Mercy and also at Sacred Heart. And that is in the bulletin right on the inside page, right-hand side, under the column, 2 parishes, 1 family. You'll notice we have 2 lay trustees who help with the overall administration of the parish. We also have a finance council made up of people with various expertise in financial and other business-related matters, and they help to make sure we're acting as good stewards of the gifts that we receive. We have a pastoral council made up of a variety of people from both Sacred Heart and Divine Mercy, male and female, young and wise, and it forms one council for both parishes, and they help to foster the life and the mission of the parish. Now, in addition to these consultative bodies who provide a lot of assistance and help to me, and I'm very grateful for them, we are also blessed to have 2 priests who assist us as they're able. Father Patrick Rogers, as you know, the Jesuit from Lemoyne, who provides weekend assistance every weekend, and I'm so grateful for that, and Monsignor Elmer, who is retired, who provides assistance on a more limited basis. We also have 4 wonderful deacons. We have a seminarian this year on pastoral year, Seminarian Doug. We have 2 religious sisters during October and during November who have a temporary mission to go out and evangelize here. We have an amazing parish staff that work around the clock, behind the scenes, on the front lines, and they sacrifice to do that, to be here. We have wonderful and extremely dedicated volunteers who make so much happen around our parish. And we have all of you who support the mission of the church here at Divine Mercy with your time, talent, and treasure. So with that in mind, let's take a look now at the handout in the bulletin, the 2023-2024 Annual State of the Parish Report, and it looks like this. And the information in this report is from July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2024. You will notice that the report begins with a short letter from me, which I would ask you to read later when you get home. If you open up the report and look at the left-hand side, you will notice our parish at a glance. And we have 607 registered and active families here after we've cleaned up our census these last few years. This past year, we actually had 39 new families register, which is a beautiful gift. We have 40 ministries with 180 participants. When we did the increased offertory campaign last year, we had pledges of about $270,000 in annual offertory gifts. And we have 99 families who participate in our online giving. And that's how they contribute to the mission of the parish and the church. If you notice the column next to that, sacramental ministry, there's the number of baptisms, first communions, confirmations, weddings, funerals, and so on from this past year. And below that are some of our many upcoming events. These are some important ones that I hope you'll join us for in the days ahead. If you go now to the right-hand side of the report, you will see how we break down what we do to carry out the mission of the church here in those three ways. So at the top of the page, United in Worship, you'll notice our Mass attendance has actually gone up, which is remarkable in this crisis of faith. You'll also see the many opportunities that we offer weekly and throughout the year to draw us closer to the Lord through worship and prayer, and how many people are taking advantage of them. If you go down to the middle section of that page, you'll see living and sharing the good news, and you'll notice the number of people who are growing in our faith on a regular basis, and some of the ways that we support them. One of the ways we support them is coming up. It's our annual Winter Festival, which raises about $15,000 for youth and family ministries. And then at the bottom of the page, you will notice caring for those in need, and the extraordinary number of people being served. For example, over 2,000 meals a month through our food pantry out here, which is remarkable. And the ways that we support that. So, for example, through our annual Hope Appeal, which last year raised about $60,000 here. Now I invite you to please turn to the last page, which is the back cover. And again, you can take some time at home and look at this more thoroughly. But on the back cover, you will see how all of that and more was made possible through our kindness and generosity. So each year we receive our revenue from regular collections, from other income like our Hope Appeal overage, which we rely on to do special projects, our fundraising efforts, which we do a lot of here for the size of our parish. It's remarkable how much money we raise outside of our collections each year. Our restricted donations are given for special purposes, for example, the food pantry, and they can only be used for those purposes, and we only use them for that. And then our special collections, which are our second collections we take throughout the year for various needs. So in total, last year, we received $783,516. Remarkable for the size of our parish here. Now, our expenses are also listed there, so you'll see that we spend our income and revenue and gifts on ministry, first and foremost, on the staffing that requires, and on our property to maintain our spaces to do what we do. You'll also see that the restricted expenses are for those things like, for example, the food pantry. When money's given for that, it's only spent on that. And you'll see the amount we collect for second collections is then sent right back out for those purposes. So in last year in total, we spent $792,682. We had a net loss of $9,166. It was projected to be more last year, but we did increase offertory, so it helped us out in that regard. And that's the first net loss we've had in the last 5 years, and I'll talk about why in a few minutes. And this, again, is one of the reasons we did the increased offertory, because we've made all the cuts that we can make without starting to cut important ministries. And the expenses for doing ministry have simply gone up like everything else. Our staffing, for example, is always a challenge to provide a just wage to those who work here so that they can afford to do that. And again, I'll talk about that in a moment. And so this year we budgeted very conservatively and cautiously, and our finance council and our professional accounting firm helped with that. And we're anticipating a net gain of $10,400, which will turn that trend around back to a positive one. So now that we've seen our State of the Parish report for 2023-2024, I'm just going to make a few comments about our parish. First, coming together with Sacred Heart as two parishes, one family, has been a game changer for us, very positive, because without coming together, neither parish would be able to continue, and I mean that seriously. The amount of money now to do ministry and staffing is gone way up, and it is very hard to keep staff, especially part-time staff. In the last 5 years at Divine Mercy, I've hired over 25 people for this small parish because of people's circumstances constantly changing. And let alone, not only that, but to find part-time staff is impossible. So we are able, between both parishes, to offer some full-time positions for youth ministry, for family faith formation, for music ministry, and other areas. And that's been able to make it possible for us to find good, qualified, strong people to pay them a just wage and to benefit from their wonderful ministry. So coming together has been great. We've not only survived, but we've actually grown because of that. As I said, we have a strong full-time youth and family ministry, staff and program. We have a full-time music director, and we are very blessed with so many others who work to carry out this mission. The second comment I want to make is the increased offertory program that we did last year made it possible for us to support our mission. We had an amazing response here of 67% of parishioners who did something, either through prayers or their increased offerings, which is beyond the charts of what normally takes place, well beyond that. So in January, we're going to follow the advice of our professional company who does this, and we're going to renew that program for a couple of reasons. One, to make it the invitation to those new families who've come, but also to reach out to the other 30-something% that have not yet responded, and to see if maybe with our transparency and with what we're doing with our mission, they might be interested now in taking part in that in a new way. But when you think about it also, all the successful nonprofit organizations like St. Jude's Hospital, American Heart Association, even in our diocese, Francis House, Joseph's House, every year they're renewing their asks and campaign just to see where people are at and what they can do and to continue their mission. So we'll talk more about that in January. We really want to try to move from our two parishes being parishes that just respond to need after need after need and always having to talk about it, to going to tithing and stewardship, and we'll talk about what that means again in January. The third comment I want to make is that we've updated our census, in the last couple of years, and we keep that regularly updated. And that has changed the way we've been able to do ministry. We are able to get to know who we serve better and to serve them well. And so if you've not yet updated your census information or provided a picture for the census, we'd ask you to please contact the office and do so. You may not want us to know who you are now, but I can promise you when people get sick or there are serious needs out there, they want us to know who they are so we can reach out, and we've been able to do that in powerful ways. And the last comment I want to make is probably one of the most important ones, and that is our continued efforts to move from Christendom to apostolic mission. We've talked about that phrase for a while now. Last Lent we reflected on it. We're actually going to reflect on it more this Lent and go further with it. And it's something we keep in mind as we move away from parishes with just different groups doing different activities to a united parish family. But more importantly, this time of the church just having to sit back and maintain and people coming to us and we just do the same things we've always done, that time has long passed. We can see that now with our numbers dropping dramatically. We have to be out on mission. We can't just maintain anymore. We have to be proactive and out on mission, which is a whole different way of doing things. So we do that when we plan our budget, when we do our parish calendar, when we permit groups to use our facilities, things like that. And it's an important thing because it's helping us to respond to the crisis of faith that we're in. We now have a strategic planning committee along those lines who are working on this. And the committee has members from both parishes. They're working with a professional consultant, and they're devising a plan for the future using indicators of vital, vibrant parish life. They're in the early stages. They started a few months ago, and so soon they will share what they have found in their own research and assessment, and then they're going to ask for input in the months ahead. So stay tuned for that. It's an important process for us, again, to be moving forward in a strong and powerful way with the mission that we have. In the meantime, I want you to notice there are a number of significant projects that are taking place here at Divine Mercy because we have again, moved to tithing and stewardship. So we're not constantly having to say, hey, this project's going on, can you help us with it? We've just been able to plan and budget for them in the last couple of years. So we're adding a small addition to our parish hall for much needed storage, which will help our events that we do, the many events that we have, and to make them even more successful and easy for our volunteers. We are replacing the old roof over the parish hall and offices and Scotty and food pantry, the green roof, because it's now come to the end of its time and is in need of replacement. We're able to do that. We are expanding our offices because we've been expanding our staff, which is a beautiful thing to accommodate the mission that we have. We are finishing the family area in the narthex and adding an usher's room there. And we've almost completed the 3 new shrines that you've seen in the last few months go up outside as you drive in, which represent all the former parishes that make up Divine Mercy. Again, we've been planning these projects and saving for them for some time, and thanks to your generosity, it's exciting we can now do them. And it's so important that we do them because we have to keep our facilities up and improved to match the vitality and vibrancy of our mission today in the church. There's so much more that could be said about our wonderful, wonderful parishes and how our gifts to the mission of the church are bearing a lot of fruit. Again, I hope you'll look at that report more closely today when you go home. And like the poor widow in today's gospel, Jesus is challenging us to give our all to his saving mission, which he now entrusts to us. So I want to end by thanking you from the bottom of my heart for all the ways that you're doing so now, for all the many beautiful contributions you make to this mission of your time, talent, and treasure. It is a privilege and honor to be the pastor here and at Sacred Heart. I want to thank you for your love and support and for your trust in this challenging time in the life of the church. And I want you to know that I give it up every day and try to give 200%, most days 12-hour days, most weeks 7-day weeks. And I do that because I believe in the mission that's been entrusted to us with all my heart. And I believe in our parishes, in all of you. So today at this Eucharist, let's recognize the many blessings that God has bestowed upon us. Let's continue to receive them. And by the grace of God, let's commit ourselves to giving our all and sharing them with others.